What you might not know is that Tom Cotton was actually groomed by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee to oversee U.S. intelligence agencies. Now, there have been articles that have been written about this since 2018, but nobody's ever done a deep dive on Tom Cotton and why he specifically was chosen on the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence because of his staunch pro-Israel views and the money that he's backed by AIPAC. There was this article, and it was actually written back on April 25th of 2018. Tom Cotton, what's the reason for AIPAC's $4.5 million support for the young senator? That's an enormous amount of money. And the article is pretty lengthy. I'll just read the main points here. In recent months, news sources in the United States have reported the possibility of the appointment of the young Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton as the director of Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, or U.S. National Security Advisor. Obviously, Tom Cotton now is on the Senate Select Committee of Intelligence. The 40-year-old Cotton is considered the youngest American senator, actually. And in April of 2015, the New York Times admitted that the Zionist lobby's financial support for Tom Cotton was much higher than that for other Republican senators. That's interesting. The New York Times has announced that the amount of financial assistance was around $2 million. This was back in 2015. This is while some informed sources in the U.S. say the AIPAC lobby has spent $4.5 million for Tom Cotton to ensure he is winning against Mark Ryer in 2014 Senate elections. So why? Why is AIPAC spending so much money on Tom Cotton specifically? Well, this is the part that's absolutely shocking. What's the reason for this huge unnatural support from Zionist lobbies for Tom Cotton in particular? In other words, what capacity did these organizations and lobbies see in Tom Cotton that they'd be willing to use their full power to help him enter the U.S. Senate? Well, the truth is, a security analyst at the time gave a off-the-record statement to Modern Diplomacy, which is the article that this was written in. Given the young age of Cotton compared with other American politicians and his commitment to Tel Aviv, the Israeli authorities have tried to use him as an influential factor in U.S. domestic security and foreign policy. Again, did you hear that? The Israeli authorities have tried to use him as an influential factor, not the United States, Israeli authorities. AIPAC has always named Cotton as a trend-making agent in its calculations. This Zionist lobby's recent attempts for Cotton's presence as the CIA director could also be analyzed in the same vein. Again, this article was written back in 2018. Of course, now he's on the Senate Select Committee of Intelligence. The analyst added, it is likely that the AIPAC lobby would ask Cotton not to run for the Senate in the congressional elections in 2018 so that he can be employed by the U.S. government as the national security advisor or CIA director in Trump's government, of course, referring to Trump's first term. So the level of prepping and grooming that the AIPAC lobby spent in Tom Cotton specifically, not just because he's your average Joe politician or because even he's just a senator, but because specifically they wanted him to oversee U.S. intelligence agencies. And if they know that they're backing somebody who's overseeing the U.S. intelligence agencies, well, the money that the U.S. intelligence agencies allocate to specific operations, especially obviously operations that involve deployment overseas or covert operations overseas that have to be in part with the Israelis. Tom Cotton's oversight and Tom Cotton's AIPAC handlers are going to be pushing for specific actions that he should be taking. So the existing evidence suggests that such a letter was direct order by the AIPAC lobby and was designed to negatively influence the negotiation process. This is referring to Tom Cotton leading and managing the anti-JCPOA movement. So when the United States wanted to basically try to mediate relations with Iran during Obama's administration, Tom Cotton was pushing for the exact opposite. Now, in a lot of other senators and Republicans were as well, but this was particularly because Netanyahu actually spoke publicly asking for this. And this was definitely in Israel's interest to make sure that the United States and Iran never have any sort of even neutral or less tense relationships, because it's in Israel's interest, of course, for the United States to take military action against Iran. So Another article keeps going on, and this is also written back in 2018, unveiling the story of a radical a senator and a controversial open letter. And this article also talks about the exact same thing. Tom Cotton of Arkansas is drafting a major letter to and regarding Marco Rubio and the Republican nomination. This was back in 2018 again. And it goes on and it talks about how Tom Cotton's special advisors, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, also Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, and Donald Trump himself, see Cotton's advice coming directly from AIPAC. Not to mention that Cotton's wife, Anna Pickham, who is in direct communication with Israeli intelligence service Mossad and AIPAC. In January of 2015, when Iran nuclear showed a possibility to go through the Iran nuclear deal, AIPAC decided to use the Republican senator as a tool to threaten Iran's foreign ministry officials. Tom Cotton has repeatedly made these sort of statements, of course, very hawkish policies toward not just Iran, but of course Russia and China as well. So there's another article now that was also written back in 2015, and it talks about who are Tom Cotton's advisors here. And it goes on, and the article states that on the one hand, he wants to amplify the U.S. military budget. That's a pretty standard, common Republican policy there. But on the other hand, he's, of course, trying to breach the nuclear deal with Iran regarding back to Obama's administration. However, the activity of this young American senator in the U.S. Congress and his support from AIPAC deserves extra scrutiny. So why is it then that AIPAC is trying and bankrolling Tom Cotton more than other senators? Is because they want to make sure they put him in positions of power related to U.S. intelligence, because they want to make sure that they know that they have a buddy there to be able to push for Israeli policies when it comes to CIA covert operations. This is how deep it goes. Not just let's buy out all of Congress, but the way they methodically do this to make sure that they have all the right people in all the right places overseeing intelligence. So you read these sort of articles and you understand how deep it goes, and then just today alone, we also see we see some new news that's coming out, and it says apparently, I don't know if you guys have seen it already, but Senator Tom Cotton now is probing the Department of Justice to investigate Code Pink. If you guys don't know who Code Pink is, it's the pro-Palestine organization that's basically calling for a boycott of Israeli products and whatnot. And it says here, Republican Senator Tom Cotton, let me zoom in a bit here so you guys can see it better. There we go. Has urged Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate the anti-war group Code Pink. Medea Benjamin is in Code Pink. I think she might be one of the organizers or leaders for potential violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act and laws against supporting foreign terrorist organizations. Code Pink is literally just a pro-Palestine organization. And now he's stating that they're somehow linked to the Chinese Communist Party and partnerships with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, U.S. designated terrorist group. Code Pink denies any foreign government funding and stating its donations come from private citizens. This is real funny here that we have Tom Cotton calling for the Department of Justice to investigate Code Pink for whether or not it needs to be under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA. FARA is the actual act that President John F. Kennedy was pushing to have the Zionist lobby, AIPAC's predecessor, the American Zionist Organization, American Zionist Council, register with. After John F. Kennedy was assassinated, that pressure was lifted. But there was immense pressure back in the 1960s to have AIPAC register as a foreign agent. He's bought out by AIPAC, which states they are a group of American citizens working to strengthen U.S.-Israel relations, but it's a group of American citizens pushing the benefit of a foreign country above America is what's really going on. And a lot of their policies have shown over and over that they prefer to push for policies that benefit Israel, even if it comes at the expense of AIPAC. And this is the dude that's asking an organization to register with FARA, the guy who's bankrolled by a foreign government. Give me a damn break. Cotton's mental disease is worsening. He never visited China and studied China, but likes to badmouth China twice a day. You wonder how an ignorant one like him gets elected in the first place. And then, of course, he goes on here. This is apparently the letter he sent regarding Code Pink needing to be investigated. So it's not even worth reading. Let's see. Yeah, just too much. Code Pink has received $1.4 million, and now it's saying that its total funding comes from somebody named Neville Sigham. And it goes on and on and on. I'll have to make another video on this letter specifically later. So it goes on, and this is basically what's going on. So now when you try to understand why is Tom Cotton somehow linking an organization that's pro-Palestine to Code Pink, and if you guys don't know Code Pink, just like search up their Instagram. It comes off as a lot of other nonprofits here in the U.S., but it's because Code Pink is very has a large platform, and they've been very vocal, and they're in DC, and they're pushing politicians, and especially Medea Benjamin here. She's really heavily active on social media. So of course, Tom Cotton's AIPAC handlers are like, Tom Cotton, we gotta shut that down. Go ahead, put some policy forward, do something, do X, Y, and Z. Now, this is very light, less consequential policies that AIPAC is asking Tom Cotton to push for to have Code Pink register with FARA versus having AIPAC push Tom Cotton to allocate millions of dollars while he's in the Senate Select Committee of Intelligence for covert operations that might have to do with U.S.-Israeli relations. So so those are much more serious things that AIPAC is pushing Tom Cotton for, and how lucky Israel is to make sure to know that they have their right-hand man right there in the Senate Select Committee of Intelligence, overseeing everything that comes through when it comes to the monetary spending of the CIA, the FBI, and all of these other intelligence communities in the U.S. So that's a little bit about Tom Cotton for you guys. Let's go through some of the comments here. Terrifying headline: the fact that the leader of the CIA must be given the green light by AIPAC and the Mossad. Oh my God, Code Pink has been around for so long that even Netanyahu, Bibi knows who they are. Senator Com Totten is very unpredictable. At times, he is total MAGA, but then turns around into a complete creep for Israel. Zionist number one, absolutely. So, hope you guys found this video interesting. As always, I would really appreciate the support by clicking the subscribe button below. Otherwise, I will